The boy was not asking for help, but the German shepherd in front of him was begging the whole road to notice. Staff Sergeant Ethan Cole saw them just after sunset outside Beckley, West Virginia, where the rain came down cold and steady over an abandoned bus stop beside Route 19. He was 35, a white U.S. Marine with short brown hair, a weathered face, and gray-blue eyes that had learned to measure trouble before it spoke. He had come home after years away, driving a pickup with mud on the tires and an old duffel bag in the back seat, expecting nothing more than gas station coffee and a quiet road through the hills. Then his headlights found the child. The boy sat under the cracked plastic roof of the bus shelter, knees pulled to his chest, one sneaker split at the toe, both hands wrapped around a worn backpack like it held the last pieces of his life. He looked about 9 years old, too small for the cold, with rainwater dripping from his hair and a face so tired it seemed older than childhood should ever be. In front of him stood a female German shepherd, lean and soaked, sable black and tan fur pressed flat against her ribs, amber eyes locked on Ethan's truck. She did not bark. She did not run. She simply placed her body between the boy and the world, as if her own bones were the only fence left. Ethan eased onto the shoulder and turned off the engine. For a moment, only rain spoke. It tapped on the hood, hissed along the road, and fell from the shelter roof in silver streams. The dog's ears lifted when Ethan opened his door. He stepped out slowly, hands visible, boots sinking into wet gravel. "Easy, girl," he said softly. "I am not here to hurt him." The German shepherd lowered her head an inch, not in surrender, but in warning. Behind her, the boy tightened his grip on the backpack. Ethan stopped 10 feet away. He had grown up in a trailer 12 miles from a road like this, where hunger taught children how to say they were fine before anyone asked. He knew the posture. Small shoulders, dry lips, eyes that expected adults to leave. He took off his field jacket and laid it across the wet bench beside the shelter, not close enough to frighten the dog, close enough for the boy to reach if he chose. The boy looked at it, then at Ethan. "We are not stealing," he whispered. His voice was thin, careful, rehearsed. Ethan's chest tightened. "I did not say you were." The boy reached into his backpack and pulled out half a pack of crackers, softened by rain at the edges. He broke one piece in two and gave the larger half to the dog. She did not eat until he took the smaller piece for himself. That was when Ethan understood. This was not a stray guarding a child. This was family holding together in the only way it had left. The German shepherd's old collar caught the edge of his headlights, and Ethan saw a small scratched tag beneath the mud. 2 words were still readable. "Parker family." Ethan looked from the tag to the boy. "What is your name, son?" The child hesitated. The dog leaned back until her shoulder touched his knee. Only then did he answer. "Noah." Ethan nodded once, like the name mattered because it did. "Noah, where is your mother?" The boy stared past him toward the empty road, and what he said next was quieter than the rain. "Mr. Victor said she did not want us anymore." The German shepherd gave a low, broken whine and pressed closer to him. Ethan looked down the dark highway, then back at the boy and the dog standing in the cold. He did not know who Mr. Victor was yet, but he knew one thing with the certainty of a Marine reading the weather before a storm. Somebody had left them there and expected no one important to stop. Ethan did not move closer after Noah said the name. He stayed beside the open door of his pickup, rain running from the brim of his cap, both hands relaxed where the boy and the German shepherd could see them. The road behind him was nearly empty now, just the red glow of a passing truck fading into the West Virginia dark. Noah looked as if he expected Ethan to ask too many questions, the kind adults used when they had already decided a child was trouble. So Ethan did not ask another one. Not yet. He reached into the cab and took out a sealed bottle of water and an unopened granola bar from the console. He placed them on the edge of the shelter floor, then stepped back. The German shepherd lowered her nose, sniffed the air, and looked at Noah. She waited for his permission. That small act told Ethan more than any answer could have. This dog was not wild. She had rules. She had belonged somewhere. Noah picked up the water with shaking fingers and twisted the cap twice before it opened. He drank only a little, then poured some into his palm for the dog. "Molly gets thirsty first," he said. The German shepherd lapped gently, keeping one amber eye on Ethan. "Molly," Ethan repeated. The dog's ears moved at the sound of her name. "That is a good name." Noah did not answer, but his shoulders dropped half an inch. Ethan saw his own jacket lying and used on the wet bench, so he took another step back and sat on the gravel beside the pickup instead, lowering himself below the boy's eye line. The rain soaked through his jeans within seconds. It did not matter. I grew up not far from here, Ethan said quietly. Trailer off Coal Ridge Road. Roof leaked over the kitchen table every spring. My mother used to put a cooking pot under it and say at least the house was trying to make soup. Noah looked at him then, not trusting, but listening. Molly remained in front of him, but her tail was no longer tucked. Ethan pointed gently at the granola bar. That one is yours. No charge. No lecture. Noah unwrapped it carefully. He broke the bar and held half to Molly. Ethan shook his head once, soft but firm. You first. The boy froze, as if the words were unfamiliar. Molly turned and nudged Noah's wrist toward his own mouth. Only then did he take a bite. Ethan looked away for a moment to give him dignity. Poor children learned to hate being watched while they were hungry. He knew that too. When Noah finished half the bar, Ethan asked, How long have you been here? Noah's eyes dropped to the backpack. Since morning. Did someone drop you off? The boy's fingers tightened around the wrapper. Molly leaned against him. Mr. Victor said he was taking us to see Mom. Then he said he had to stop for gas. He told me to wait here and not bother anybody. Ethan kept his face still, though something cold settled beneath his ribs. And he did not come back. Noah shook his head. He said if I was good, maybe Mom would change her mind. The words sat in the shelter like dirty water. Ethan looked at Molly's collar again, at the scratched Parker family tag, at the dog who had stood in the rain all day rather than leave the boy she loved. He took his phone from his pocket and called the county non-emergency line, asking for Deputy Sarah Mills by name. He knew her from high school, back when both of them were kids trying to look tougher than their shoes. While the call rang, Noah's eyes widened. Please do not send Molly away. Ethan lowered the phone slightly. No one is taking her from you tonight. Molly stared at him as if measuring whether men could keep promises. Ethan held her gaze and meant every word. When Deputy Mills answered, Ethan gave the location, his name, and enough details to make her voice change from routine to alert. Then he called the only veterinary clinic he knew stayed late for emergencies, Brooks Animal Care, and asked whether Dr. Hannah Brooks could receive a cold child and a tired dog who needed warmth more than paperwork. By the time he ended the calls, Noah had pulled Ethan's field jacket around his shoulders. It swallowed him whole. Molly finally sat, still between Noah and the road, but no longer standing. Ethan took that as permission to come one step closer. Not more. Just one. Noah, he said, I am going to help you find out the truth. But first, we get both of you warm. The boy looked up from under the oversized jacket, rain shining on his lashes. What if the truth is bad? Ethan looked at Molly, then at the dark road where someone had expected a poor child and a loyal dog to disappear into the weather. Then we will not let you face it alone. Deputy Sarah Mills arrived first, her cruiser easing onto the shoulder with its lights low, not flashing, because Ethan had asked her not to frighten the boy. She stepped out into the rain wearing a dark county jacket, her hair tucked beneath a cap, her face careful in the way good officers learned when children were watching. Molly stood again the moment Sarah approached. Not lunging, not barking, just placing herself in front of Noah with the same tired courage she had shown all evening. Sarah stopped 6 feet from the shelter and lifted both hands slightly. That is a loyal dog, she said. Ethan nodded. That is why I called you. Noah sat wrapped in Ethan's oversized field jacket, holding the empty water bottle with both hands. His lips had more color now, but his eyes still carried the road in them. Sarah crouched, keeping her voice calm. Hi, Noah. I am Deputy Mills. Nobody here is in trouble. Noah looked at Ethan first, then at Molly. Molly glanced back at him, and only then did he nod. Sarah asked for his last name. Parker, he whispered. Ethan saw her expression change before she could hide it. Not surprise exactly. Recognition. Noah Parker? Sarah repeated gently. The boy nodded again. Sarah looked at Ethan, and the look said this had just become bigger than a rainy bus stop. A pair of headlights turned in behind the cruiser. Dr. Hannah Brooks arrived in an old Subaru with a clinic logo on the door and blankets piled on the passenger seat. She was in her 40s, with kind eyes and the quiet speed of someone who had spent years helping frightened animals decide whether humans could be trusted. Hannah did not reach for Molly right away. She opened a blanket, laid it on the shelter floor, and backed away. Molly sniffed it, then looked at Noah. It is okay, Noah said softly. Only then did Molly step onto it, though she kept one paw touching the boy's shoe. Hannah's face softened. She is exhausted. Ethan crouched beside Molly, close enough now that the dog allowed his presence. Her paws were muddy, one pad rubbed raw from walking, her ribs faint beneath wet fur. Still, every part of her attention belonged to Noah. Hannah examined her gently where she stood, speaking in a low voice the whole time. Good girl, Molly. You kept him safe. Now let us keep both of you warm. The words made Noah look down fast, as if praise from Molly almost hurt. Ethan noticed the backpack then, clutched against the boy's stomach. Noah, he said, is there anything in there that tells us where you came from? Noah hesitated, then opened the zipper. Inside were a damp sweatshirt, a school library book, 2 crayons, and a folded paper sealed inside a sandwich bag. Sarah took the paper with permission and opened it under the shelter light. It was a school emergency contact form. Mother, Lily Parker. Temporary guardian, Victor Harlan. Address, Harlan Creek Trailer Park. Ethan read the names silently. Victor, the same man who had left a child waiting in the rain. Noah watched their faces. Is Mom mad? He asked. Sarah folded the paper with care. We do not know that, honey. But Ethan heard what she did not say. She knew the trailer park. She knew Victor Harlan. Maybe everyone in a town like Beckley knew a man who owned too many doors and opened none of them for people without money. Hannah wrapped Molly in the blanket, and this time the German Shepherd allowed it because Noah was being wrapped too. Getting them into Ethan's pickup took patience. Molly refused to enter until Noah climbed in first. Noah refused to climb in until Molly was promised the seat beside him. So Ethan moved his duffel bag, spread Hannah's spare blanket across the back seat, and let the boy and dog settle together. Molly placed her body between Noah and the door, then rested her head across his lap. Her eyes never left Ethan until he closed the door gently. Sarah stood beside him in the rain. Victor Harlan told the school Noah transferred to relatives in Ohio, she said quietly. That was 3 weeks ago. Ethan looked through the window at the boy under his jacket and the dog who had given everything to stay beside him. His mother? Sarah's mouth tightened. Lily Parker has been at Raleigh General recovering. She has been asking for her son. The rain seemed to grow colder. Ethan did not say what he felt. He only looked toward the road, toward the invisible direction of Harlan Creek Trailer Park, and then back at Noah. Then we start with warmth, he said. And after that, we start with the lie. Brooks Animal Care sat at the edge of Beckley beside a closed hardware store and a line of wet maples shining under the parking lot lights. Ethan pulled up to the side entrance just as Dr. Hannah Brooks unlocked the door from inside, warm light spilling onto the pavement like a promise kept. Noah did not move until Molly did. Molly did not move until Noah's hand found her collar. They climbed out together, wrapped in blankets, the boy swallowed by Ethan's field jacket and the German Shepherd walking close enough that her shoulder brushed his leg with every step. Inside, the clinic smelled of clean towels, antiseptic, and the faint comfort of dry kibble. Hannah led them to an exam room already warmed by a small heater. Deputy Sarah Mills followed with Noah's backpack in one hand and the folded school form in the other. No one spoke too loudly. No one rushed. Ethan stood near the wall, watching the way Molly placed herself between Noah and every new doorway, not because she wanted to challenge anyone, but because the world had taught her that doors could take people away. Hannah knelt on the floor, instead of lifting Molly onto the table. We can do this right here, she said. No big moves. Molly allowed Hannah to check her paws, ears, ribs, and heartbeat, but only while Noah sat beside her on a folded blanket. When Hannah gently touched the rub pad on Molly's front paw, Noah leaned forward, worry sharpening his tired face. Does it hurt her? Hannah smiled softly. A little, but she is brave, and it will heal. Noah nodded as if storing the sentence carefully. Brave things could heal. Maybe he needed to hear that about Molly before he could believe it about himself. Sarah stepped out to make calls, her voice low beyond the door. Ethan caught pieces of it. Raleigh General. Lily Parker. Temporary guardian. Harlan Creek. Each phrase landed like a stone in water, spreading quiet circles through the room. Noah heard his mother's name and went still. Molly lifted her head immediately. Is she there? Noah asked. Ethan came closer, stopping where Molly could see him. Deputy Mills is checking. Mr. Victor said she got tired of me. The words were flat, but the boy's fingers twisted into the blanket. Ethan crouched slowly until his eyes were level with Noah's. Noah, tired mothers ask for rest. They do not stop loving their children. Noah looked at him for a long second. How do you know? Ethan felt the old ache of his own childhood move through him. The memory of his mother working double shifts and still falling asleep with bills in her lap, not because she loved less, but because life had asked too much. Because people who love you can be scared, sick, broke, or far away, he said. But that is not the same as not wanting you. Molly pressed her nose into Noah's sleeve, and the boy finally leaned against her, small and silent. Hannah finished wrapping Molly's paw with a soft bandage and offered her a bowl of food. Molly sniffed it, looked at Noah, and waited. Hannah understood at once. She brought Noah soup from the staff refrigerator, warmed in a paper bowl, with crackers on the side. Only after Noah took the first spoonful did Molly begin to eat. Ethan looked away again, giving them both the dignity of hunger without an audience. A few minutes later, Sarah returned to the doorway. Her face was controlled, but her eyes had changed. Lily Parker is at the hospital, she said gently. She has been asking for Noah every day. The spoon slipped from Noah's hand into the bowl. Molly stopped eating. The heater hummed. Rain tapped softly against the clinic window. Noah's mouth opened, but no words came. Ethan moved only when the boy looked at him, and even then he simply placed one steady hand on the edge of the blanket beside him. Sarah continued, careful with every word. Your mother did not abandon you. She was told you were safe with relatives. Noah shook his head once, confused by hope, afraid of it. But Mr. Victor said, Mr. Victor lied. Ethan said, not loudly, not angrily, just plainly enough for the truth to stand on its own. Molly gave a low whine and laid her head across Noah's lap, as if she had known the truth before any adult was brave enough to say it. Noah bent over her neck and held on. His shoulders began to shake, but the sound that came out was not only sadness. It was relief finding a way through fear. Ethan looked at Sarah, then at the school form on the counter. The night had begun with rain, hunger, and a child waiting where no child should have been left. Now there was warmth, a clinic light, a dog with a bandaged paw, and the first clean piece of truth. It was not justice yet, but it was the door justice would walk through. Noah fell asleep in the exam room chair just before midnight, one hand still resting in Molly's fur. The blanket covered him to his chin, and Ethan's field jacket stayed folded beneath his head like a pillow too large for him. Molly lay on the floor beside the chair, her bandaged paw tucked carefully beneath her, her amber eyes half open every time anyone passed the door. She was exhausted, fed, warm, and still on duty. Ethan stood in the hallway with Deputy Sarah Mills while Dr. Hannah Brooks finished writing notes for the morning. The clinic had grown quiet, the kind of quiet that comes after fear has finally been given a chair and a light to sit under. Sarah held her phone against her chest. Lily Parker is stable, she said. The hospital social worker confirmed she has asked about Noah every day since she woke up. Ethan looked through the glass panel at the boy sleeping beside the dog. And Victor? Sarah's mouth tightened. Victor Harlan told the school Noah was with relatives in Ohio. Told the hospital Noah was staying with a church family. Told the church Lily had arranged private care. 3 different stories. Same result. No one checked the same room twice. Ethan did not answer. He had seen that kind of thing before in poor towns, where a smooth voice and a clean office could make people doubt a dirty coat and a hungry child. Sarah continued. We need records. Something solid. Guardianship papers, payment trail, messages, anything that shows he had responsibility and lied about it. Hannah stepped into the hallway then, drying her hands on a towel. Mrs. Evelyn Carter might know something. Sarah turned. Noah's teacher? Hannah nodded. Retired now, but she still volunteers at the elementary school. She brought Molly in for vaccines last year when Lily could not get off work. Paid half the bill herself and told me not to embarrass the family by mentioning it. Ethan looked at her. Can you call her? Already did. A soft knock came at the side entrance 20 minutes later. Evelyn Carter entered wearing a raincoat over a flowered blouse, her gray hair pinned loosely, her eyes searching before her feet stopped moving. When she saw Noah asleep through the exam room window, one hand flew to her chest. Oh, sweet Lord, she whispered. Molly lifted her head, watched the woman, then gave one quiet thump of her tail against the floor. Evelyn covered her mouth, tears rising. She remembers me. Noah stirred at the sound, opened his eyes, and for a moment seemed lost between the road and the clinic. Then he saw Evelyn. His face changed, not into joy exactly, into recognition safe enough to touch. Mrs. Carter? Evelyn entered slowly and knelt beside the chair. Hello, baby. Noah's lower lip trembled. Mom did not leave me. Evelyn shook her head, tears slipping down her face. No. Your mother called the school from the hospital until her voice gave out. She loves you more than breath. Noah closed his eyes and leaned into Molly. Ethan looked away, letting that truth belong to the boy first. Evelyn brought a folder from beneath her coat. Inside were printed emails, school attendance notes, copies of messages she had sent to Victor Harlan, and his replies claiming Noah was safe out of state. There were also hospital notices addressed to Lily Parker, all forwarded to Harlan Creek Trailer Park after Victor took temporary responsibility. Sarah read each page without speaking. The evidence did not shout. It simply stood there in black ink, calm and undeniable. Evelyn pointed to one message. I asked to speak with Noah by video. Victor said the relatives had poor service. Her voice shook, but she kept going. I should have pushed harder. Ethan looked at Noah, who had fallen back against the blanket, Molly's head across his knees. People like Victor count on good people blaming themselves, he said. Sarah closed the folder. Then tomorrow we stop letting him count. Molly rose suddenly, slow but determined, and limped to Noah's backpack near the chair. She pushed it with her nose until it tipped over. From the side pocket slid a small brass key on a plastic tag. Ethan picked it up and wiped away the dirt with his thumb. The tag read Parker Unit. Sarah stared at it, then looked at Molly. The German shepherd stood beside Noah, tired, bandaged, and steady, as if she had just handed them the next door. Morning came pale and wet over Beckley, with fog hanging low between the hills and the parking lot outside Brooks Animal Care shining under a thin silver sky. Noah slept a little longer in the exam room while Molly rested beside him, her bandaged paw stretched toward the chair as if even sleep could not convince her to stop watching. Ethan stood at the front counter with Deputy Sarah Mills, Mrs. Evelyn Carter, and Dr. Hannah Brooks, looking down at the brass key Molly had pushed from the backpack. Parker Unit. 2 words on a plastic tag, scratched and dirty, but clear enough to turn the whole morning in a new direction. Sarah placed the key inside a small evidence bag, then looked at Ethan. I am going to Harlan Creek. Ethan nodded. I am coming with you. Sarah studied him for a moment, not questioning his motive, only measuring the line between help and interference. You stand back unless I ask. Understood. Noah woke before they left. He sat up slowly, hair messy, Ethan's field jacket sliding from his shoulders, and saw the adults gathered by the door. Fear returned to his face the way cold returns through a cracked window. Molly lifted her head immediately. Ethan went to him first, stopping at the edge of the blanket. Deputy Mills is going to check the place where your things were kept. Noah looked at the evidence bag in Sarah's hand. Molly found the key. Sarah smiled gently. Yes, she did. Noah touched Molly's ear. She remembers where we lived. Ethan crouched. Then we will listen to her. They did not take Noah back to the trailer park. Sarah arranged for Evelyn to stay with him at the clinic, and Hannah promised Molly could remain beside him as long as she needed. But when Ethan reached the door, Molly stood. Her paw was sore, her body tired, but her eyes were fixed on the key in Sarah's hand. She gave one quiet sound and stepped toward them. Noah looked at Ethan. She knows the shed. Sarah hesitated. Hannah checked the bandage, then sighed softly. Short walk only. No running. No stress if we can avoid it. Harlan Creek Trailer Park sat 7 miles outside town, tucked behind a line of bare trees and a gravel road full of shallow puddles. The office was the newest building there, painted cream with dark shutters, trying hard to look respectable. The trailers behind it told a different story. Peeling steps, blue tarps, bicycles with flat tires, flower pots someone still cared enough to water. Victor Harlan met them at the office door in a clean wool coat, his gray hair combed neatly, his smile already prepared. Deputy Mills, he said. This is an unexpected visit. Sarah's voice stayed professional. We need to ask about Noah Parker. Victor's smile thinned, not enough for most people to notice. Ethan noticed. Molly noticed too. She moved closer to Ethan's leg, ears forward, eyes locked on Victor with a calm dislike that needed no growl. Poor boy has had a difficult time, Victor said. I tried to help, but some children make it hard. Ethan felt the words land like oil on water. Smooth. Poisonous. Sarah did not react. You told the school he was with relatives in Ohio. That was my understanding. You told the hospital he was with a church family. Victor spread his hands. People misunderstand things during stressful situations. Molly suddenly turned away from him and pulled gently toward the gravel path behind the office. Ethan followed only after Sarah gave him a small nod. Victor's eyes sharpened. That dog should not be here. Ethan looked back once. She has better memory than most paperwork. Behind the office stood a row of storage sheds with metal doors and cheap padlocks. Molly went straight to the third one and stopped. Her nose touched the bottom corner. Her body grew still. Sarah held up the bagged key, photographed the tag, then called in the location before opening anything. Victor's voice rose behind them, polished fear cracking through his manners. You cannot just search private property. Sarah turned calmly. Then you can explain why a missing child had a key to this unit. The padlock opened with one hard click. The door rolled upward, releasing the smell of cardboard, dust, damp blankets, and forgotten lives. Inside were stacked boxes marked Parker, a child's winter coat, school papers, hospital letters addressed to Lily Parker, unopened assistance envelopes, and a small blue blanket covered in sable dog hair. Molly stepped forward, lowered her head to the blanket, and closed her eyes. Ethan stood in the doorway, the West Virginia fog behind him and the truth in front of him, understanding that justice had not arrived with shouting. It had arrived on a bandaged paw, leading them to what a powerful man thought no one poor enough would be missed for. Deputy Sarah Mills did not touch the boxes right away. She stood at the open storage unit with her phone raised, documenting everything in order, while the morning fog drifted behind her and Molly stood beside Ethan with her nose lowered to the blue blanket. Victor Harlan remained near the office steps, no longer smiling, no longer polished enough to hide the fear behind his eyes. He kept saying there had been a misunderstanding, but the shed answered without needing a voice. Parker. Lily Parker. Noah Parker. School papers. Hospital letters. Assistance envelopes. A child's winter coat too small to belong to anyone else. Ethan watched Sarah work with steady patience. He wanted to say many things, but he had learned that justice did not need a louder man. It needed the truth handled carefully enough that no one could sweep it back into the dark. Sarah called for another deputy, then placed the unopened envelopes, printed letters, and school documents into evidence bags. One envelope had Lily Parker's name on it. Another had a county assistant stamp. Several were addressed to Victor Harlan as temporary guardian. Ethan looked away for a moment, not because he could not stand the papers, but because he could. That was the worst part. The wrong was not hidden in some dramatic place. It was folded in mail, filed in boxes, stored behind a clean office while a hungry child waited at a bus stop in the rain. Molly limped deeper into the doorway and nudged a cardboard box with her nose. Ethan crouched and looked inside without touching. On top was a small red notebook, the kind children use for spelling homework. Sarah photographed it, then lifted it with gloved hands. The first page had Noah's handwriting, uneven but careful. Mom likes sunflowers. Molly likes peanut butter. I do not like it when Mr. Victor says I talk too much. Sarah's face tightened, but her voice stayed even. This will help establish where he was staying. Victor stepped forward. That is enough. You are twisting a family matter into something ugly. Molly turned sharply then, not with a bark, not with a snarl, only with the full weight of her amber eyes fixed on him. The old man stopped. Ethan stood beside her. No, Ethan said quietly. You did that when you left them on Route 19. Sarah glanced at him, not a warning, more a reminder to stay steady. Ethan took one breath and stepped back. The second deputy arrived, and the shed became a place of procedure. Photographs, labels, inventory, signatures. No shouting, no grand confession, just the slow, clean sound of lies losing their shelter. By early afternoon, Sarah had enough to bring Victor to the station for formal questioning. He adjusted his coat as if dignity were something he could button into place. When he passed Molly, the German shepherd did not move aside until Ethan placed a hand lightly on her shoulder. Let him go where the truth is waiting, he murmured. Molly relaxed, but her eyes followed Victor until the deputy car pulled away. Only then did she return to the blue blanket and press her nose into it one last time. Ethan understood. This place had been part of Noah's fear. Molly was saying goodbye to it for both of them. Back at Brooks Animal Care, Noah was sitting with Mrs. Evelyn Carter, drawing small circles on a paper cup with a blue crayon. He stood when Ethan came in. His eyes went first to Molly, then to the bandage, then to Ethan's face. Children who had been lied to learn to read adults before words. Ethan knelt so Noah would not have to look up. "We found your things," he said. "Deputy Mills found letters from your mother, too." Noah's hand closed around Molly's collar. "She really asked for me?" Ethan nodded. "Every day." The boy's mouth trembled. "Can I see her?" Ethan looked at Sarah, who had just entered behind him, her jacket damp from fog and evidence tape. She gave a small nod. "The hospital says we can bring you this evening, if you feel ready." Noah looked down at Molly. The German shepherd leaned into him, tired but steady, and he whispered into her ear as if she were the only place courage could be stored. "We." The ride to Raleigh General was quiet in the way important things are quiet before they arrive. Noah sat in the back seat of Ethan's pickup with Molly beside him, her bandaged paw resting carefully on the blanket Dr. Hannah Brooks had sent along. Deputy Sarah Mills followed in her cruiser, and Mrs. Evelyn Carter rode with her, holding the folder of documents against her chest as if paper could still protect a child from what had already happened. Ethan drove slowly through Beckley, past wet sidewalks, gas stations, church signs, and houses tucked into the hills, while evening light softened the clouds above the town. Noah did not ask many questions. He kept one hand on Molly's collar and the other around the strap of his backpack. Every few minutes, he looked at Ethan in the mirror, then out the window, then down at Molly. "What if she looks different?" he asked finally. Ethan kept both hands on the wheel. "Then you look with your heart first." Noah thought about that. Molly lifted her head and nudged his chin, and the boy gave the smallest smile, the kind that had to fight its way through fear. At the hospital, Sarah spoke with the front desk, then with a nurse who had kind eyes and quiet shoes. There were forms, calls, and careful words exchanged in low voices, but no one made Noah wait alone. Ethan stood beside him near the hallway window while Molly sat at his feet wearing a temporary therapy visitor band clipped gently to her collar. Hannah had called ahead. Sarah had cleared the request. For once, the rules bent toward mercy without breaking. When the nurse led them down the hall, Noah's steps grew slower. Molly matched him exactly. Room 214 was half open, warm with lamplight, the blinds drawn against the evening. Lily Parker lay propped against white pillows, thinner than the photograph in Noah's school file, her brown hair pulled back loosely, her face pale but awake. When she saw him, one hand rose to her mouth. "Noah," she whispered. The boy stopped at the doorway. All the lies he had been told stood between them for one last second. Then Molly stepped forward, not ahead of Noah, not shielding him now, just beside him, shoulder touching his leg. Noah crossed the room. Lily reached for him with both arms, and he folded into her carefully, as if afraid hope might be fragile. "I thought you did not want me," he said against her shoulder. Lily closed her eyes, tears slipping silently down her face. "Never," she whispered. "Not for 1 minute." Molly lowered her head onto the edge of the bed, close to Lily's hand. Lily touched the German shepherd's wet nose and gave a broken little laugh. "You kept him safe." Molly exhaled, deep and tired, as though someone had finally understood the whole sentence she had been trying to say. Ethan stood near the door with Sarah and Evelyn, saying nothing. He did not need to. The room was already full of the truth. A mother had not abandoned her son. A poor boy had not been unwanted. A dog had not been guarding trouble. She had been guarding a family until the right people learned how to listen. Varying reports came over the next few weeks. Quiet updates passed through Deputy Sarah Mills and Mrs. Evelyn Carter like small lights along a dark road. Victor Harlan was under formal investigation. County officials were reviewing the assistance envelopes, the guardianship paperwork, and every false statement that had kept Noah from his mother. Ethan did not ask for details Noah did not need to carry. Justice, he believed, should protect a child from more weight, not hand him a new kind of burden. Lily Parker recovered slowly, first sitting up longer, then walking the hospital hallway with one hand on the rail and the other on Noah's shoulder. Molly walked with them whenever the nurses allowed it, her bandaged paw healing, her head held high, no longer searching every doorway for danger. By early spring, The community had helped Lily and Noah move into a small white rental house near Noah's school, with a clean porch, a patch of grass, and a fence Ethan repaired on a Saturday morning while Molly supervised from the shade. Mrs. Carter brought curtains. Dr. Hannah Brooks brought dog food and a new collar tag that read Parker family in clear letters. Deputy Mills brought groceries and pretended the heavy bags were not from half the sheriff's office. Noah carried one box of books inside like it was treasure. Lily stood in the doorway, thinner than before but smiling, one hand pressed to her heart, as if the sight of a safe home needed time to become real. Ethan tightened the last hinge on the fence gate and stepped back. Molly tested the yard once, walking the line with professional seriousness, then returned to Noah and sat beside him on the porch steps. She did not stand in front of him anymore. That was the miracle Ethan noticed most. At the bus stop, she had been a wall against the world. At the clinic, she had been a guard against separation. At the hospital, she had been the bridge back to Lily. But here, in the warm West Virginia sunlight, Molly sat shoulder to shoulder with the boy, not blocking anything, not bracing for loss, simply sharing the space where childhood could begin again. Noah looked up at Ethan. "Are you leaving?" Ethan wiped dust from his hands. "For today." Noah nodded, trying to be brave about even small goodbyes. Lily came down the steps and touched Ethan's arm. "You stopped." It was all she said, but it held the whole story. Ethan looked toward the road, remembering rain, headlights, crackers broken in half, and a loyal dog begging without words. "Molly stopped me," he said. The German shepherd lifted her ears at her name, and Noah laughed for the first time without looking surprised by the sound. Ethan climbed into his pickup, but before he pulled away, he saw Noah run one hand over Molly's new collar tag. The dog leaned into him, calm and certain. The world had not become perfect. It rarely does. But one child was home, one mother had her son back, and one German shepherd no longer had to stand between love and fear. Sometimes justice begins with evidence. Sometimes it begins with a Marine who will not look away. And sometimes it begins with a dog who refuses to leave a poor boy's side until someone finally believes what loyalty has been trying to say.